When Lantern control. Come on, when's it coming back? Love it.
I didn't see the sleeves, and
Yeah,
I'm like,
what are you talking about?
That's a weird non sequitur, but I don't know, sure.
All right, a nice play here from Christian Baker being able to just play the Saga on 1, trying to get that Haywire Might, trying to get the Lantern, something like that to interact with whatever Mikey does. It makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah, turn 1, Urza Saga is a pretty bold statement.
It is.
Turn 1 Urza Saga is saying, I don't care about these constructs at all. I just want to get whatever I can tutor up as fast as possible and do my thing.
Yep, and I love that kind of play whenever you're playing against Amulet, Storm, Dredge, any of these really unfair decks where it's all about speed and you know the constructs are terrible. That's what you kind of want to be doing. So Tamiyo, Mox Amber, Grinding Station. We're all set up for a turn 3 if we got an Underworld Breach. Let's see what the youngest of the Dingo has to say about it.
Yeah, like you were saying, the die roll is so important here.
Yeah, it really is.
Both decks are capable of winning on turn 2, but more likely the turn 3. Turn 2 is a setup turn, and then turn 3 is going to be hopefully the big turn. For the Storm deck, the setup cards are Raw Monsoon Mage and Ruby Medallion.
Yeah.
Those cost 2 mana. So it is possible to use a Ritual on turn 2 and kind of go nuts and have an absolute perfect draw and kill on turn 2. Not likely. So die roll here is huge.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, imagine if Mikey was untapping right now, about to play land 3, has a Raw in play. You got to think like, okay, just go to game 2, right?
Yeah, we're done here.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. But we get a surveil here from the parlor. Land into the yard, and let's see what we can find. Now, Mikey can win on turn 2, right? It's got to start with a Ritual into one of those Raw or Ruby, right?
Yeah, okay. Very reasonable, honestly. The Rituals, 2 mana makes 3 mana. You make your cost reducer, and now all your rituals cost 1.
Yeah.
Got a few more rituals, chain them together, get a Pass and Flames going, get some card draw effects going. It is very, very possible.
Yes.
But it's tough.
Yeah.
It's definitely not the norm.
Absolutely. And now I bet Mikey is weighing that. Just thinking, do I want to risk it? Maybe it's not all wrapped up. Maybe you have to glimpse into it or something like that. But at this point, can he wait? Because at the very least, you either have a Haywire Might or a Lantern coming off the Saga to interrupt either a Ruby or just the Past and Flame stuff next turn.
Yeah, one of the classic things about these Storm decks is they are very non-deterministic. It is a lot of rituals and card draw, and you hit a point with Past and Flames where you have too many resources to fail, basically.
Yeah.
But this deck is 4 Reckless Impulse, 4 Ren's Resolve, 2 Glimpse the Impossible. These are all cards that flip cards off the top, and if it's land, that's bad. If it's ritual, that's really, really good. So a lot of variability in possibly going off here, but looks like Dingo's going to go for it.
Uh-oh, here we go. The Storm counters and the mana is coming out. And here is a ritual to get it started.
Fireworks time.
Bang, 3 mana.
The thing is, when you're trying to go off on turn 2, you are light on resources. You only have so many cards in your hand. You have to burn a ritual to even start the chain and then kind of go from there.
Okay, here is the Raw. Now, of course, this has to just be ritual number 2, right? Okay, yep. Metamorphose, kind of a ritual here when you have a Raw.
Yeah, Metamorphose is really, really powerful because it's a ritual that draws a card.
Yeah.
Normally, Mana Neutral is a mana fixer. With the cost reducer, you're making a mana, you're drawing a card. That's the kind of card you need to get going.
Yes, absolutely. God, you got to keep track of so many things. So many things here. Storm count, Raw count, your mana.
Yeah, Raw is quite a card.
It really is.
I really like the design of tying the effect to a coin so it's not deterministic either.
Yes.
Very in the spirit of Storm.
Absolutely. I want a coin, though. I want to see a coin.
I think I agree. We got to call it judge.
Yeah.
The card says flip a coin.
Clearly not doing what the card says. Okay. Is that the end? If there's not another ritual or a Metamorphose, I don't think we can continue, right?
Yeah, the Striker Rich is mana neutral, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And the Resolve can see 2 more cards, but again, it's very difficult to go off on turn 2.
Yes.
You have to hit a pretty critical mass of rituals.
All right, and kind of a heavy sigh from Mikey and just casting the Strike at Rich. It looks like we're just turning this 1 mana into a treasure, and you never flip Raw if it's not 8, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Treasure is, It's banked up for next turn, right, Corey?
What next turn?
For Mikey's next turn. Hopefully, maybe, possibly.
Yep. All right, here is Ren's Resolve. But no matter what, we're done here, right? No more comboing. Oh, but right as we say that, here is a flip. And just ticking up on roll. Interesting. I guess it's just safer as a Planeswalker. So just making stuff cost a little bit cheaper. And there's the Ritual. One card down too late.
Oh, man.
You got to think if the Ritual was there, there was a solid chance that we could have got this going, huh?
Absolutely. Just have to keep the velocity going, and, the mix of rituals and card draw. And when it's a dark ritual, not a pyretic ritual, it's 1 for 3. It's a huge upside. But, yeah, that's just next turn is not forthcoming.
Yeah, Christian Baker says, I like your one colorless red card. Let me show you the real one here. Underworld Breach revealed, and that is game number 1 going to the die roll.
Yeah. Classic game 1 combo game, classic die roll game. I think Mikey wins that game on the play 95% of the time.
Yeah.
It was a slight fail rate, but.
Yeah, absolutely. So, of course, Mikey up top. For people who, I would say know him more as a stage name. I think we can say that. That is Young Dingo, very popular streamer on Twitch.
I have a confession.
Yeah.
I didn't actually know his real name.
Yeah.
Only Young Dingo to me.
That is fair. He has always been Young Dingo. I even just call him Dingo if I see him.
Right. Yeah, me too.
Yeah, 100%. Got to be the most famous streamer here in the building, right?
Definitely.
Okay. All right. Jim Davis, MTG. What are we doing here from Young Dingo's side?
So game 2 and 3 are going to be very, very different than game 1 and 2.
Okay.
We see there 4 Orms Chants in Mikey's board, and it's pretty cool because when you see Orms Chant in like the Boros energy deck, right? It is a good defensive measure against Underworld Breach.
Yeah.
But it's it's kind of like a time walk, and it kind of requires you to actually, like time walk, have something in play, something you can do, right? If you Orms Chant, just untap and attack for 1 and say go, yeah, you delay them for a turn, but who cares? They should do it next turn. As we saw in that game, a 1-turn delay is going to be absolutely monumental. So Chant, very, very important here. And then that's mostly what we're looking at. There's a lot of wish targets here as well, like the Breach and stuff. And then on Christian's side, Nature's Claim, ways to deal with these medallions, ways to deal with the Rahl. Mostly where we're at.
Yeah, absolutely.
We also got the counterspells too in Swan Song. We have a Spell Pierce in the main deck, or what's our main deck counterspell here?
Yeah, main deck counterspell has one other Swan Song. Those end up being great if you can counter that last Ritual or counter Past in Flame. But just one Swan Song main, 1 extra in the board as well. Okay,
so a little variety here. A few counterspells, a few abilities to destroy the medallion, which is huge. Again, Rahl's a little harder to kill, so the heat might come in as well. And there's a little bit of graveyard hate too, right? Both players are graveyard centric, so the one main deck, Soul Guide Lantern could be in play as well.
Yeah, Unholy Heat, just not a reliable way to kill Rahl, early enough. Lightning Bolt ends up being so much better as just a way, it's hard to get Delirium and kill a Rahl, on turn 2 because you give Rahl 1 turn, probably enough.
Very, very fair, yeah. Yeah, so definitely going to be a different style of game. And but
this is going to be a different style of game too, Jim. Walk us through this one. This is going to be sweet.
As well, yeah. A little different than a Storm versus Breach match is playing some high-level limited. And there's nothing I love more than a high-level limited tournament. Sealed deck on day 1, and then more importantly, call drafts on day 2. Stamped cards in your hand feels great. So that's SGCon Denver coming up April 11th to 13th. Going to be a Spotlight Series event, Magic Spotlight Dragons. There'll be a main event, which is going to be a limited event, Tarkir Sealed, week 1.
Yeah,
which is super exciting, super fun, and other Spotlight Series con events as well. We got the Command Zone and all sorts of great events happening as well. Full information on that is going to be at starcitygames.com/SGCon.
Limited is, I feel like most people's favorite way to play Magic. For me, Sealed is my favorite. I love Draft as well, but man, I love high-level competitive Sealed. Of course, there's some randomness, when you open a really horrible pool, it feels bad, but I firmly am in the camp that, a lot of pools have a lot of play to them. Of course, there's some stinkers, but most of the time you can find yourself a good deck if you are pretty good at building a deck.
Yeah, a lot of room for creativity and scrappiness,
Yeah.
Where I've had bad pools before where I built 2 separate decks.
Yeah.
And I would play each deck, for game 2 and 3 based on the matchup. So
yes.
If their deck, I'd have an okay grindy deck. If their deck looked really, really good, I'd just board to that Boros aggro deck.
Yes.
They do the quiet stop. It's all sleeve my sideboard. Just pull out the other deck, and then they think you have a grindy deck in game 2. You're just like mountain 1 drop. So
exactly.
Yeah. Sealed's great. Limited's great. Gonna be a great event.
Absolutely. So players shuffling up here, getting ready. Christian Baker up a game, up against old young Dingo. At 9-1, I mean, these are fantastic records, but we're still at that kind of spot. You really haven't done anything yet. You are starting to knock on the door of like, yeah, you got min cash locked up, those kind of things. But, the young Dingos of the world, all the players that have been here before, they don't care if they get the $200, $300 or whatever. There's one thing on their mind, and that's a top 8.
Absolutely, yeah. And then in good position, too, because when you're doing this well early, it means your breakers are going to be very, very good.
Yeah.
Which can be very, very important late in the tournament
definitely.
As far as locking up those, it's all bracketed. I got to get top 32. It's not based on record. It's based on, am I the 32nd best player of this tournament based on my record and my tiebreakers. So
exactly.
These early starts are huge for those tiebreakers.
100%. And, I mean, there's nothing more frustrating than when you get to that last round when you're like, all right, I am the record that can draw in, but my breakers are bad. I'm the one table that has to play it out. You lose. I mean, there's no worse feeling than going into that last round thinking, hey, I got this locked up. We're ready to go. And because you took your losses a little too early in the tournament and your opponents didn't do as well inherently, as that's how tiebreakers will work,
if those
don't get to play.
Those that don't know, tiebreakers are based on your opponent's match win percentage.
Yeah.
So the better your opponents do, the better your breakers are.
Exactly. And most of the time, when you lose early, you start playing against people and you beat them, they're probably dropping from the event or something like that, which hurts your tiebreakers quite a bit. So fireworks right away. We have Opal, Moxamber, Haywire Might. Opal is online, so if Mikey's big plan was windmill slam a Ruby Medallion, might as well put it into Exile Zone.
Yeah, a lot of variability here with both Haywire Might and Nature's Claim in that they're there to deal with the medallion, but is it a medallion or a Rawl?
I know. That's the toughest part of this Ruby deck. It's like you have to deal with 2 separate combo decks, essentially. If you have something like Flame of Anor, great, deals with both of them. Costs 3 mana. Sometimes you can't get there.
Yeah, might be too slow.
Yep.
That's a lot of thought from Mikey here. I mean, we're shuffling. Never mind.
And let's see what it is. It is just the third option. Ren's Resolve. See what we flip. Now we have Rawl for next turn. But when you go Rawl, then just have the mana left over. It's not guaranteed, so.
For sure, yeah. I mean, a land and a Rawl is reasonable. Guaranteed land in the Valakut Awakening. And then, of course, flipping Rawl instead of a medallion in the face of a Haywire Might is reasonable as well.
Yep, absolutely. Misty Rainforest coming down from Christian Baker and passes it back.
This is also not a pure race. Again, there are 4 Orange Chants in Mikey's sideboard. So Mikey can interact, can go, Rawl here with 1 mana up. Christian tries to go for it, fire up a chant, which is going to be a time walk, and then go off.
Absolutely. Orm's Chant, amazing in this Ruby Storm deck. Has to be the best Orm's Chant deck. Being able to be a proactive, you can't do anything about my combo, or stop these breach decks from going off. Really, really nice stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so this was Dingo searching for a land and not using this Valakut Awakening. So I guess we're casting it? Because it goes away at end step, right?
That is true, yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
I guess it also could be part of a combo turn, but wow. Imagine having both sides covered. You got the Bolt and the Haywire Might.
Yep, absolutely. So here is still the 3 mana. So worst case, I mean, you just Valakut's Awakening here, get some free value, right?
Yeah, not too bad. Not a bad fail case.
Yeah. Still have to roll the dice, I guess, because if you lose the flip, you take 1. I think that's the only thing that happens with Rawl. Here's the 3 mana, and a backup Rawl. That's big game.
I've had first Rawl, yes.
Yes.
What about second Rawl?
What about the old second Rawl? Here's another ritual. Storm count up to 5. Now we're getting a little closer to Rawl being able to flip.
This is interesting. So really attractive hand from Christian, right? So we have Haywire Might and the Lightning Bolt. Only 2 cards left. This is a spot where Christian might not be able to really go all the way next turn because so many cards were interactive. But Mikey's still firing away here on all cylinders. It looks like Christian's out.
Okay, so another ritual. Oh boy, we're popping off. Okay, now we for sure. Oh,
yeah, that'll do it.
Past in Flames, so 5 mana. Looks like we are going down to 2 mana. Is this enough?
I mean, a Breach player should understand how powerful it is to be able to just play all the cards in your graveyard.
Yes, yes. Yeah, especially if you don't have to escape 3 cards to cast each one. Wow.
Yeah, with 3 rituals and 2 card draw effects and the Valakut Awakening, I think we are off to the races here.
Wow.
You know, as we said, Storm is non-deterministic, but you hit a point where you just have so many resources, it's kind of hard to fail.
I mean, the fact that Past in Flames does not need to escape 3 cards, I mean, what's the card that's going to be afraid of March 31st? Is it Past in Flames or Underworld Breach?
Maybe they just shouldn't do the Yawgmoth's Will thing, you know? Maybe we should have learned our lesson from that one.
Get out.
Just say it. It's just a possibility.
Hey, it's a possibility. Yeah, I don't like it. I don't care for it, but here we are. So here is Ren's Resolve. I think players are kind of chatting like, hey, I'm going to win. But what do you want to do? You know, and that's the tough thing from this Storm deck. You know, it is not the, hey, I have A plus B, it's over. It's like, yeah, I'm probably 99% to do this, but, you know, I know Dingo is not saying, yeah, you are dead. And I was like, oh, maybe.
Yeah, there are a lot of cards to flip. A lot of cards to flip, a lot of dice to move, a lot of things to count.
Yeah. And looks like Rawl just got ultimated, which I don't think I've ever won one of those games when it's been ultimate.
Most Planeswalker Ultimates are like that, you know?
Yeah, that's very true. That is 100% true. And here is a bunch of cards. Still a bunch of red mana floating.
That's it. That's enough.
I think the Wish was truly enough.
Yeah.
You know, the Wish was really all we needed here. And 2 super close games.
Yeah. I mean, not a lot of turns played here. A lot of game actions taken.
A lot of game actions. Both players very much enjoy game actions, but they prefer when they're the ones doing it.
Yeah. Getting your money's worth. It's kind of like when you play golf, you know?
Yeah.
You're supposed to get a low score and not take that many shots.
Yes.
But it's fun to take shots.
That's true.
Just take more shots, the more fun you have.
Well, I have been doing the fun route for sure when I play golf.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Traveling left and right and left and right.
You want to see the whole course, too.
Absolutely.
Right? I don't want to just follow the track, you know?
All right, so let's take a look here at our new and most exciting set about to be coming out. And if you want to pre-order these, Tarkir Dragonstorm is our next set coming out. If it's anything like the previous Tarkir set, one of the most fun limited sets really out there. So if you want to get this set, do some pre-ordering, get some dragons, you know, all that kind of really fun stuff. Baby Siege Rhino, I'm a fan of that. Go to starcitygames.com/MTG-TDM to get some pre-orders going on this. I'm excited for this set. It's going to be fun.
Yeah, for sure. I was playing a ton of Magic original Tarkir.
Okay.
You know, that was the SG Tour, you know, kind of heydays or whatever.
Yeah.
And that was a really, really fun set. Did a lot of cool things for Standard, fun limited format. And I expect nothing less of the sequel.
Yeah, good old Mantis Rider,
Yep.
Siege Rhino. That made for some really fun Standard formats. And I mean, hey, those cards crossed into Modern from time to time as well.
I miss Siege Rhino.
Yeah,
it's so funny when the villain becomes the hero.
100%.
Back when it was crushing Standard, people were like, oh, Siege Rhino, and now you see a Siege Rhino in the wild, you're like, oh, it's a Siege Rhino. How cool.
Yeah, absolutely. Opponents having a great time.
Yeah.
Players looking at their opening hands here. Big game for these gamers.
Yeah, and when these games are short like this, opening hand is really, really
important. Looks like young Dingo is pretty happy, and the intimidating stare begins.
A slight glance out to the side, too.
All right. And a mulligan there from Christian.
The stare's back. That is strong.
There we go. Yeah, yeah.
Powerful.
So used to staring at his camera while he's streaming that he keeps it going when he goes into paper play here. That's very smart.
That is one of the interesting things about streaming is that when you are streaming, you are incentivized to be as emotive as possible.
Yes.
You know, you're supposed to react to things. You know, oh, smile, laugh, whoa, whoa.
Yeah.
But when you're playing paper Magic, That's what you're not supposed to do.
Yes.
A poker face is required. So it's kind of weird turning that on and off, going from event back to stream, back to event.
100%. No, I think we're both very much alike in that where, when we're streaming, when we're playing Magic, making some content and stuff, we're having a good time. But I think we both, once it is game time, straight focus.
Yeah, got to turn it off.
Absolutely. A lot of people are like, yeah, you're a lot more serious in person.
Right.
So you're like, I have to use all my brain power to make sure I don't screw up here, okay?
Yep. I get the exact same comments. Like, are you mad? Like, I'm just thinking.
Yeah.
That's my thinking face.
In our advanced age, we have to focus on one thing here.
I got to allow my 4 brain cells to try and do what I got to do, you know? So
I'm surprised you can even keep your soundboard button straight while streaming. That's your brain's firing on all cylinders there.
That is a skill in and of itself.
Yeah. We need to get one of these for you in the booth.
I mean, I am ready to go.
It's the only way we're going to get applause.
Just
button.
They're laughing at our jokes, Corey.
Exactly.
They love us. They really love us.
We need a laugh track, okay? Get a good confidence booster here from our chats. And speaking of chats, everybody, thank you so much for tuning in all weekend. If you're just joining us, welcome. Really appreciate everyone tuning in. Having a good time here watching some competitive Magic here at the highest level.
Nothing better, competitive paper Magic,
You gotta love it. You gotta love it. Couple fetch lands, passing it back. Of course, Christian is on the play here. No real exciting play, but, whenever your play is less than exciting, these Surveil lands got your back.
Yeah, definitely interesting here where, Christian looking for a good turn 1, Mikey not really. Mikey's important turn is turn 2 for a setup turn.
Yeah.
But Christian, of course, with a plethora of 0 mana artifacts and possible, explosive turns. Not seeing one there is, a little concerning.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think the best turn for Young Dingo is just, being able to strike it rich. Makes the turn 2s a little more possible. But I can imagine those are kind of the cards that you got to side out. You got to side out something from the Storm deck,
Yeah, for sure. The game becomes less about raw speed in the post-sideboard games.
Yeah. If you're a coward.
You ain't wrong. You ain't wrong.
Tabio coming down here. Cracks the fetch land. Probably going to be doing a surveil here from Young Dingo.
Yeah, so definitely a different style of game. We were saying how these creatures, are normally phenomenal in almost every matchup. Not as exciting when your opponent's trying to just kill you,
Not really.
Sacking clues and stuff. However, like you said a lot of times in this broadcast so far, games always slow down in the post-board games. Just like we were saying, Flage, not usually good against Breach, but in the post-board games, you need to do something.
Yep.
Tamiyo, same idea. If the game slows down, Tamiyo's going to get really good.
Absolutely. Tamiyo control, kind of this really popular transition that you can go from the Grinding Breach all-in combo deck to playing a lot more interactive games, draw some cards when you don't counter stuff, but not a lot of counter spells for the Storm deck. This is not a deck that was really on the radar for anyone, So a lot of these Breach players, there's not a lot of negates, force a negation, spell snare is great against Storm.
Oh, yeah.
It's unreal.
Yeah.
So if you can have a bunch of spell snares and spell pierces, swan songs, then this Tamiyo control plan looks a lot better, but just not what we're seeing in a lot of these lists.
Yeah, this is more of a stopgap. This is more of all right, let's smooth things out a little bit. If the game slows down a bit, sure, but we can't slow down too much.
Yes. Now, of course, if we do have a spell snare here, no, actually none in the list, just the swan songs. And then consigns, if you want to bring those in. Not a big fan of that against Storm, but it's an option. And I feel it's something my chat always recommends I bring in. I always have to tell them, no, bad.
Berating chat, best place to be.
Exactly. That's what we live for.
Oh, yeah.
All right, so that's kind of brutal, though, right? Ren's Resolve into 2 more Resolve-esque cards here. Whenever you resolve into something where you are probably not casting both of them, that's kind of brutal, right?
Yeah, and, we got to set up first for these. Casting these things for 2 mana is, if it's a slower, grindier matchup, that's kind of okay.
Yeah.
This is not that. We want to cast this card for 1 mana, not 2 mana.
Yeah, well, it is a grinding matchup. It's a grinding Breach matchup, so... Heavy sigh.
So we got. Tamiyo does look better here if the Storm deck is kind of floundering around a little bit. So and then the ability to rebuy. If you only have 1 or 2 Swan Songs, if you can rebuy it and cast it a few times, that is pretty effective.
Absolutely. And the fact that you just help out your opals, that's always a big deal as well. Here is an opal. We'll see if there's another artifact or a land. Christian has not played land 3 yet. So big thinks here. I'm never in a big happy place when I'm tapped out and my breach opponent is thinking.
Yeah, yeah.
When the gears are turning.
Yeah, a lot of playing against combo deck, too, is thinking about, like, what's their next turn going to look like?
Yeah.
Are they going for? Is it going to be bad for me? Right now, Dingo is in a pretty weak spot, you know?
Yes.
Not set up very well. The 2 face-up cards aren't looking very good either. It's possible that a combo could happen next turn, but not super likely.
So just an Emery here flips over some cards, but that would kind of signify to me that we do not have another land, and maybe our card of interaction would be, with my opponent thinking that long and then tapping the green mana, I would be thinking, oh, maybe it was between that or Nature's Claim, but you could have just tapped the other blue mana. So that was kind of weird to tap that, right?
Yeah, this is pretty interesting. I wonder, if there's a plan here to signify, maybe he's trying to say, I don't have Nature's Claim, trying to bait into a different kind of line of action, but definitely interesting.
Yeah, weird for sure.
One of the important things that, is happening at any high-level game of Magic is that every little thing that happens is a context clue for your opponent.
100%.
And everything you can do, you're kind of looking at that, why'd they do that? Why'd they do that? Why'd they do that? So, and then you recognize that, you are part of that exchange as well, and you can choose the information you want to give to your opponent.
I think that's one of the big skills that turns these good/great players into elite, is the fact that players bleed information every turn by the way they look at their cards, by the way they tap, by the way they tap and untap. You can gain so much by paying attention in your games, even when you're playing online. There's a lot of things that become pretty obvious, and the players that can pick up on that and then use that information to deduce what cards they may have is a very, very big deal and a very nice skill.
And the next level there, of course, is trying to get false information, too. Yeah. Going above that, beyond. That's where things get really crazy.
Oh, yeah. When you do something that's very intentional, but it looks like a oopsie-daisy kind of thing, that's always great. The classic, you have absolutely nothing. You're like, hold, let me think that out.
So, again here, Mikey, not a great turn. Another resolve into another pretty poor hit.
Yep. But that's got to lead me to believe next turn we're going to try.
Yeah, the turns are running out.
Yeah.
There's a turn counter in this game for sure. Although, again, when your opponent has a hand that isn't looking too great, we just see a white mana open here. Mikey might have some Orm Chant rolled up.
Yep.
But this time is allowing Emery and Tamio to kind of do their thing.
Yeah, absolutely. So Chant is the scary card here. Looks like we have, not sure exactly what that is. Probably a Rumble. Yep, there we go. Now can get a land here, or what looks to be opal number 2.
And Urza Saga 2, while it is threats, it is also a tutor for a variety of hate pieces. You can go find Haywire Might, Soul Guide Lantern. It's a little slow, but it is a plan.
In 1 million turns,
Yeah. And the pace of this game, normally the game might be over by then, but the pace of this game is currently proceeding is definitely a slower one.
Exactly. And if you're going to get a land no matter what, might as well have some utility since you already got your color sources pretty wrapped up. So looks like we are going to see that Urza Saga shortly here, but instead might as well get a free island. Mox Amber here with your 2 blue creatures. Urza Saga can come down as well. And now we got all the mana in the world, but cannot win the game unless we have both Breach and Grinding Station right now. Now, that being said, there's a second opal in the yard and Rumble, so if you can get enough cards in the yard, you can kind of build your own Grinding Station here.
Yeah, very interesting game as far as, setup-wise.
Yeah.
It's a great setup. I mean, Tamio, Emery, Clues, Saga, if there's a point of interaction or maybe 2 in Christian's hand, Christian can kind of slip into that role, so one Swan Song here would be a really, really big deal.
Absolutely. This is kind of the big tension point. These are the turns that are going to decide who's going to be 10-1 and 9-2. This is a big turn for Mikey. I think if Mikey has 1, maybe 2 Orm's Chant, something like that, maybe Mikey doesn't have to go for it. But, if he doesn't, it's game time. Let's go.
Yeah, the window's closing.
Yeah. Plays the Ritual pre-roll. Okay, that is telling. That must mean maybe an Embarrassment of Riches?
Yeah, maybe just a bunch of rituals in hand.
Gotta love getting out the storm counters. I remember back in SCG Tour days, we would have one of our famous storm players get out a coloring book for their opponent, so you'd have something to do while you were comboing off.
How do I not remember that? Wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I mean, it was the one storm player that was always around. Caleb Shear?
Caleb Shear, yeah.
Yeah.
Caleb is the storm counter. He was the SCG storm counter.
That's right, yeah.
Yep.
Would get out a coloring book so that at least someone has something to do. Your opponent has something to do while you go off. Really nice of him, really.
That is very kind.
All right, so there is the resolve with 1 mana floating.
So interaction points here, Swan Song, of course, but also Lightning Bolt. You know, this Rawl is a vulnerable creature. There's a second Rawl available, too. So there is mana floating. You know, another Rawl could be cast in theory.
Yeah.
Or it's not, I'm sorry, they're not mana floating, because the dice there is just a...
The Rawl counter, yeah. There's
Got it.
Rawl counters, there's storm counters. There's another land found here, and here is Orm's Chant. If Mikey has it all wrapped up, this could easily be a proactive Orm's Chant.
Yeah, really, really cool that the Orm's Chant is a defensive measure, but also an offensive measure, too. It just says, hey, you know what? How about you take this turn off? All right, I'll take it from here.
Yeah. And now, I mean, if anything, even if Young Dingo doesn't go for it right now, you can either proactively Orm's Chant Christian on like the upkeep or whatever, or just save it for your next turn and go from there, huh?
Yeah, and then a lot of setup, too, and a Ren's Resolve available, too. Rawl's in play.
Yeah.
Looking much nicer for Dingo.
And we drew a clue just...
Ooh.
Oh, boy. Orm's Chant.
Silence, Christian.
Yes.
No more from you.
So that's got to lead me to believe that there is a another burn spell. There is the Unholy Heat with Delirium. I'm sure we're going to see a ritual in response.
Pretty cool here, this redundant Rawl.
Yeah.
Looked real bad last turn. Not looking too bad now.
Not terrible. If it does die, we still need more from Mikey here. And, I mean, if there was a counter spell plus a breach or whatever, Christian has got this, right?
Yeah.
Oh, boy, here's blue mana.
Oh, wow.
Whoa.
Well, chat's happy.
Consigning? What are we consigning? The trigger from Rawl?
So, Rawl does exile, correct? When it flips, it actually leaves play.
Yes.
So, if it were to turn into a Planeswalker response to the Unholy Heat, that would be a way around that.
Okay.
So, trying to stop the trigger would allow the heat to actually kill the creature.
So, this is stopping a 50-50 coin flip. That would...
Right, which is very funny, but...
That's about on par for what Consign does here. I mean, the best thing that Consign truly does is counter an amulet. Or not an amulet, a ruby.
Yeah.
You know, but so many people are like, wow, it counters the storm of a grape shot.
Yeah.
They're going to cast it again.
It's too late at that point.
Yeah, exactly.
We got more rituals. We're looking pretty good here.
So ritual, 2 flips. And it looks like we are casting them both and putting 2 Rawl counters on the stack. So 1 flip, flips it there. Unholy Heat does not work. And this is going up to 6. Okay, it is at 8. So 2 rituals.
Take that extra roll. You got to do that extra flip.
Got to take that extra damage.
Still there.
And now ultimate here from Rawl. And you got to think this is Young Dingo taking this down.
Yeah, I mean, shields down with the Orm's Chant. Ultimate going off. Unfortunately, it's coloring book time for Christian.
Yes. And Christian had a lot of disruption there. Did his best to be able to try to fight through all of this, and it just wasn't enough. Now, that being said, there has to be something good here, right? Like, that was okay. The ones Ren resolves pretty good, but all the lands are bricks.
Yeah, and the resolves are not guaranteed.
Yeah.
You know, it could just be 2 more lands, so...
Oh, and you can't cast the talent or anything, huh? So only 2 spells? Wow. Okay, so you get the other Rawl. That does just reset, though. Like, you have to go back up to 8 spells with this to flip it again, though, huh?
Yes.
All right, so... Oh, well, maybe not. If that flipped again, we'll see how many dice Dingo puts on.
All right, my bad.
I wasn't sure either, so yeah. And now you can just activate again.
Yeah.
If your first were all bricks, what about a second one?
It is possible for it to brick.
Yeah.
But
I mean, there's 8 more lands in the deck, I guess. Those are bricks. And I mean, another roll. Yeah, that's it.
Okay. All right.
The flames of the past.
So what's your favorite color crayon?
I like blue. Yeah.
Any blue?
I like blue.
I like cerulean blue.
Cerulean blue?
Yeah,
okay.
yeah,
Well,
that's a good one.
Young Dingo likes red because he's been seeing a lot of it this weekend. A lot of red cards will advance.